11:23 p.m. The blue numbers lit up his dark bedroom. Min Kong didn't reach over to turn off the alarm. He never did. Every single night for 3 whole years, he just let it ring until it stopped on its own. 3 years. That's 1,095 nights. Each alarm a reminder of when everything in his life fell apart. His fancy watch said it was Tuesday. The half-empty whiskey bottle on his nightstand told a different story, that days don't matter anymore. Nothing really mattered since that rainy night when his phone rang at this exact time, and some stranger told him Soo-yeon was dead. He still remembered driving too fast through the rain, down those twisty mountain roads outside Seoul. His vision blurry, not just from the rain on his windshield. Then those red and blue police lights spinning on the wet road. A cop's voice saying, "Sir, I'm sorry, but there was nothing anyone could do." He didn't even notice someone watching him from the hallway. Didn't see the woman standing by his partly open door. Had no idea someone was seeing his private moment of sadness. Then, a floorboard squeaked. His head jerked up, eyes sharp. In one quick move, he grabbed the gun hidden under his pillow. "Who's there?" His voice was ice cold. The new maid stepped into view. What was her name again? Viridia. The American woman his grandmother hired even though his wife hated the idea. Their eyes met across the dark room. Most people would have apologized, bowed, and hurried away. She didn't do any of those things. Instead, she looked at him like she was taking mental notes. Like she was figuring him out. Like she somehow knew what that alarm really meant. "It's late," she said simply. "You should try to sleep." In her pocket, her fingers wrapped around a photo, her secret. A picture of her sister and his fiancé, smiling together. Taken 3 years ago, the day before they both vanished from this world. You know what's interesting about grief and secrets? They're actually pretty similar. They both eat away at you from inside. They both need to be fed. And they both eventually come out into the light. Some people collect fancy watches or cars. Lee Min Kong. He collected ghosts. But the new maid? She collected secrets. And his big house was absolutely full of them. I have to pause right here because this story gets intense fast. If you're already feeling that chill down your spine, you're going to want to be here for what comes next. What happens when a woman who's hunting for answers meets a man who's hiding from them? Trust me, you don't want to miss a single minute of this. Smash that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because I want to know who else is about to witness one of the most twisted love stories I've ever told. At night, Seoul looks like a sea of lights. Pretty from far away. Kind of dangerous when you get closer. Min Kang's office had a great view of those lights from the 32nd floor of Kong Tower, the respectable face of his not-so-respectable business. Construction. Real estate. Security services. Everything looked perfectly legal on paper. What happened underneath was a whole different story. "The stuff from Busan is running late again," Director Han said, dropping a folder on Min Kang's desk. "Port officials are getting nosy." Min Kang didn't look up from his computer. "Pay them." "We did. They want more now." "Then find someone else who doesn't." Director Han nodded, understanding what Min Kang wasn't saying out loud. "Find a new person at the port. Someone who understands how things really work." The old contact was becoming a problem. This was Min Kang's world. Clean appearance, dirty money. Respect built on fear. Power that came from making tough choices. 3 years back, he'd been different. Soo-yeon had made him softer. Made him think about a life beyond the business his father and grandfather built. Made him dream about something more. Now, Now he was exactly what everyone expected. Cold. Efficient. Untouchable. Director Han paused at the door. Your grandmother called. She wants to know if the new staff person is working out okay. Min Kong stopped typing. The woman from last night. The one who didn't bow. Tell her I don't really have an opinion. And your wife? Min Kang's jaw got tight. What about her? She's called 3 times already. Something about the new maid being rude. Of course she did. Vivian thought even breathing near her was disrespectful. Deal with it, Min Kang said, turning back to his work. I've got real problems to handle. Director Han gave a small bow and left. The clock said 9:37 a.m. Less than 12 hours before that alarm would go off again. The thought sat heavy in his chest. The Kong mansion took up 2 whole acres in one of Seoul's richest neighborhoods. Old money surrounded by perfect gardens. High walls. Security cameras that looked like decorations. A beautiful prison, really. Viridia Fides had been in this prison for exactly 26 hours. She'd been counting. Her room in the staff area was small but private. 1 bed. A skinny closet. A window that looked out at the eastern gardens. First thing she did was check for cameras and microphones. Found 2. Left them right where they were. Better to know where they're watching from. Now she stood in the main kitchen, folding fancy napkins into perfect triangles while the head housekeeper, Mrs. Park, explained what everyone liked to eat. Mr. Kong takes coffee black. Just 1 cup. No food unless he asks for it. Mrs. Kong likes fresh fruit, yogurt, and green tea. The grandmother eats a traditional breakfast at exactly 7 a.m. Not 1 minute late. Viridia nodded, remembering details that might be useful later. And which staff member takes care of the locked room in the East Wing? Mrs. Park's hands froze mid-fold. Nobody goes there. Ever. Don't ask about it again. Interesting. Viridia filed that away with everything else she was learning. The mansion ran like clockwork. Everyone had their spot. Their job. Their boundaries. She was here to mess all that up. The kitchen door swung open. A woman walked in, expensive clothes, perfect hair, face like she just smelled something gross. Vivian Kong. The wife. Mrs. Park immediately bowed. Good morning, Mrs. Kong. Viridia didn't move. Vivian's eyes narrowed. You. New girl. What was your name again? Viridia Fides. You don't bow when I'm around? I was folding napkins. Would you rather have wrinkled napkins or a proper bow? Kind of hard to do both at once. The kitchen went completely silent. Mrs. Park's eyes got huge with horror. Vivian stepped closer. I don't think you understand your place here. I understand just fine. You need good help. I need a job. It's a business arrangement, not some medieval thing. Something dangerous flashed in Vivian's eyes. Where did my husband's grandmother find you? Some American charity case? Chicago, actually. The agency told me you've gone through quite a few staff members lately. They thought I might stick around longer than most. We'll see about that. Vivian turned to Mrs. Park. Have her clean all the guest bathrooms. By hand. Then we'll talk about proper respect. After Vivian left, Mrs. Park grabbed Viridia's arm. Are you trying to get fired on your very first day? Nobody talks to her like that. Viridia carefully removed the older woman's hand. I'm not scared of her. You should be. The last girl who stood up to Mrs. Kong was gone within a week. No recommendation. No references. Nothing. What happened to her? Mrs. Park looked away. Nobody knows. She just disappeared. Viridia's hand automatically went to her pocket, where the photo was hidden. Her sister Vilika Fides, smiling next to a beautiful Korean woman at what looked like a garden party. Vilika's last text before she vanished: "I found something important." That was 3 years ago. The same night Soo-yeon died. The same night everything changed. Grandmother Kim sat in her private rooms, watching the security video on her tablet. The new maid was cleaning the third guest bathroom, carefully and without complaining. Interesting. Most people would be showing some frustration by now. A knock at the door. Her assistant came in with tea. "What do you think of her?" Grandmother Kim asked, still watching the screen. "The American? She's different. Mrs. Kong already wants to fire her." "Of course she does. Vivian wants everyone gone who isn't afraid of her." She sipped her tea. "Has she gone near the East Wing yet?" "No, madam. But she asked about the locked room." Grandmother Kim smiled a little. "Good. She's smart. Tell security to let me know right away if she tries to get in there." "Are you sure that's a good idea?" "If Mr. Kong finds out." "My grandson hasn't truly seen anything in 3 years. He looks, but he doesn't really see." She put down her cup. "This house has been frozen in time since Soo-yeon died. Sometimes the only way to melt ice is with fire." She turned off the tablet. "Watch the American carefully. But don't get in her way. Whatever happens next needs to happen naturally." By evening, Viridia had cleaned 7 bathrooms, served lunch, and memorized the main floor's layout. She'd noticed 4 visible security cameras, identified 2 security guards who switched shifts, and figured out which floorboards made noise when you stepped on them. She was getting dinner ready when Min Kong came home. Through the kitchen doorway, she watched him walk in and take off his suit jacket. Vivian appeared at the top of the stairs, right on cue. "You're late," she said. "We have dinner with the choice in an hour." "Cancel it. They're your biggest clients." "We can't cancel." "I just did." He walked past her toward his office. "This is the 3rd time this month. Do you have any idea how this makes me look? How it makes us look?" Min Kong stopped. Didn't turn around. "There is no us, Vivian. There never has been." The silence after that was heavy. Even from the kitchen, Viridia could feel it. Vivian's voice got low and dangerous. 3 years, Min. 3 years I've played the good wife while you worship a ghost. Everyone has limits. Even me. Find your limit somewhere else. I've got work to do." He went into his office and firmly closed the door behind him. Vivian stood frozen for a moment, then turned, catching Viridia watching from the kitchen doorway. "Enjoying the show?" Vivian's voice was sharp enough to cut. "No, ma'am. I was just waiting to find out if dinner plans were changing." "They're not. My husband might not care about appearances, but I do." She came down the stairs and stopped right in front of Viridia. "One more thing. If I ever catch you eavesdropping again, you'll be out on the street so fast your head will spin. Got it?" Viridia met her gaze. Crystal clear. Something in Viridia's eyes made Vivian take a small step back. "Good. Now get back to work. I want dinner ready at 8 whether he shows up or not." After Vivian left, Viridia pulled out her phone and made a note: Min Kong and Vivian, marriage on paper only. Obvious tension. No love lost. Then she added, Vivian scared of something. Using anger to cover it up. She put her phone back in her pocket, next to the photo. First day almost done. Small pieces of the puzzle, slowly coming together. It was almost midnight when Viridia finished her work. The house was quiet. Vivian had eaten alone, then left for some party. Min Kong had stayed in his office until after 10, then went to his room. Grandmother Kim hadn't shown up all evening. Perfect time to look around. Viridia moved quietly through the dark hallways. From staff rooms to main floor. Main floor to east wing. The forbidden area. Her shoes were soft and quiet. Her black uniform blended with the shadows. She had a small flashlight but didn't use it yet. The moonlight through windows was enough to see where she was going. The east wing felt colder somehow. Unused. She passed several guest rooms. A small library. Then reached the end of the hallway where a single door stood. Locked, like she expected. She checked it carefully. Modern lock. Not something she could pick quickly without the right tools. But that wasn't the goal tonight. Tonight was just about exploring. She put her ear against the wood. Silence. Then she noticed something weird, a faint smell. Floral. Like someone had sprayed perfume months ago and the ghost of it still hung in the air. Footsteps came from the main hallway. Someone coming. Viridia slipped into the shadows of a nearby corner, hardly breathing. Min Kong appeared at the entrance to the east wing. He moved like someone walking through a cemetery, respectful, sad. He stopped in front of the locked door. From her hiding spot, Viridia could see his face in the moonlight. The hard lines of his face. The emptiness in his eyes. He didn't try to open the door. He just stood there, one hand flat against the wood, head down. A private moment of grief that Viridia shouldn't be seeing. After what felt like forever, he spoke. A whisper in Korean that Viridia barely heard, Jalja. Sleep well. Then he turned and walked away, back toward the main house. Viridia waited until his footsteps were completely gone before coming out of her hiding place. She went back to the door, thinking. That room had to be Soo-Yun's. Kept exactly like it was 3 years ago. A shrine to the woman Min Kong couldn't let go. But what Viridia really needed to know was, had her sister Vilika been in that room? Had she found whatever important thing she mentioned in her last message? And most importantly, what connected Vilika's disappearance to Soo-Yun's death? Viridia took out her phone and quickly took a picture of the door. Then she went back the way she came, careful to avoid the creaky floorboards she'd memorized earlier. What was hidden behind that locked door wasn't what Viridia expected. It was worse. It was the heart of a man who'd stopped living 3 years ago. And somewhere in this house, someone knew exactly why both Soo-Yun and Vilika had died that night. Min Kang's grandmother hadn't hired her by accident. This was always the plan. Bringing in an outsider who wouldn't be afraid to ask dangerous questions. Who wouldn't be easily scared by Vivian. The photograph in her pocket was only half the story. The other half would get her killed. But Viridia had come too far to back down now. For 3 years, she'd been searching for answers about what happened to her sister. She'd given up her job as a prosecutor in Chicago. She'd learned Korean. She'd followed every lead to this house, this family. As she slipped back into her room in the staff area, she made a silent promise to the sister who'd disappeared. I'm here now, Vilika. And I won't leave until I know the truth, no matter what it costs me. The clock by her bed said 12:17 a.m. In about 23 hours, Min Kang's phone would ring again at 11:23 p.m. And the ghosts of the past would grow one day older. Viridia woke up at 5:30 a.m. Day 2 in the Kong mansion. Her neck felt stiff from sleeping lightly, one ear always listening for sounds in the hallway. Old habits from her prosecutor days, never fully relaxing in unfamiliar territory. She checked her phone. No missed calls. No messages. Just the lock screen photo of her and Vilica at the lake last summer, before everything. Before she became obsessed with finding answers. The staff quarters were already busy, maids hurrying with laundry, kitchen staff preparing breakfast. Viridia slipped into her black uniform, pulled her hair back, and headed to the main kitchen. Mrs. Park was waiting with a look that said trouble was coming. Mrs. Kong wants to see you. Now. Before breakfast service? She said immediately. Mrs. Park lowered her voice. She spent an hour with the household manual this morning. That's never good. The household manual. Great. Viridia found Vivian in the sunroom, dressed in yoga clothes she probably never used for actual yoga. A thick binder sat open on the table beside her. You wanted to see me? Vivian didn't look up from her phone. You've clearly never worked in a proper household before. I've worked in several, actually. Not like this one. Vivian finally looked up. This house operates by specific rules. Since you seem to have difficulty with basic concepts like respect, I've created a special schedule for you. She handed Viridia a printed sheet. The list of daily tasks was impossible: cleaning all guest rooms, the main living areas, laundry for the entire household, plus serving all meals. Work for 3 people, minimum. Each task must be completed perfectly, on time. Vivian's smile was all teeth. The manual outlines the proper technique for everything. You'll be evaluated daily. Viridia scanned the list. This would take 20 hours to complete. Then I suggest you work efficiently. Vivian turned back to her phone. Oh, and Grandmother Kim has requested you bring her breakfast this morning. Don't keep her waiting. As Viridia turned to leave, Vivian added, one more thing. The East Wing is off limits to staff. I heard you asking questions. Consider this your only warning. Viridia nodded and left, thinking not about the impossible schedule, but about why Vivian was so concerned with the East Wing. Grandmother Kim's quarters were in the West Wing, a series of traditional rooms with paper doors and low tables. The hallway outside smelled of medicinal herbs and old books. Viridia balanced the breakfast tray carefully as she knocked. Enter, came a surprisingly strong voice. The old woman sat by the window, small and bent but with eyes sharp as cut glass. She wore traditional hanbok in subdued colors, her white hair pulled into a simple bun. Good morning, Mrs. Kim. I've brought your breakfast. Viridia Fides. The American. Grandmother Kim gestured to the table. Set it down and join me. Viridia hesitated. I have a schedule from Mrs. Kong that will still be there in 15 minutes. The old woman poured a second cup of tea. Sit. Viridia sat across from her, noting how Grandmother Kim moved, not as frail as she first appeared. The supposedly arthritic hands handled the teapot with precision. My daughter-in-law doesn't approve of you, Grandmother Kim said, picking up her spoon. Which means you're exactly what this household needs. I'm just doing my job. Are you? The old woman's eyes seemed to look straight through her. Chicago prosecutor turns domestic worker in Seoul. Quite a career change. Viridia's heart skipped. You checked my background. I check everyone who enters this house. Grandmother Kim took a small bite of rice. The question is, why did you want to enter it so badly? The room felt suddenly smaller. I needed a job. No. Grandmother Kim set down her spoon. You needed access. The real question is, access to what? Before Viridia could answer, the door slid open and Min Kong appeared. He looked surprised to see Viridia there. Grandmother. You're up early. I'm always up early. She smiled at him. Miss Fides was kind enough to bring my breakfast and keep an old woman company. Min Kang's eyes shifted to Viridia, then back to his grandmother. Director Han is waiting to discuss the Incheon project. Of course he is. Business never sleeps. Grandmother Kim waved her hand. Go. We'll talk later. As Viridia stood to leave with Min Kong, Grandmother Kim called after her, Miss Fides. Sometimes the answers we seek are not the ones we want to find. Outside in the hallway, Min Kong glanced at Viridia. My grandmother seems to like you. Is that unusual? She doesn't waste time on people she considers unimportant. He studied her for a moment. What did you two discuss? Tea. The weather. How I should do my job. Min Kong almost smiled. Almost. A word of advice, in this house, everyone has an agenda. Even my grandmother. And you, Mr. Kong? What's your agenda? Something flickered across his face. To get through each day until 11:23. He walked away before she could respond. By mid-afternoon, Viridia had completed barely half of Vivian's impossible list. Her back ached from scrubbing floors, her hands raw from harsh cleaning chemicals. She was changing sheets in the fourth guest room when she heard it, a sharp cry from down the hall. Following the sound, she found a young maid, Young-hee, kneeling on the floor of Vivian's dressing room. Expensive clothes were scattered everywhere. Vivian stood over her, face twisted in anger. I said the blue dress. The sapphire blue, not this navy trash. Vivian held up a designer dress. Are you colorblind or just stupid? I'm sorry, Mrs. Kong. I'll find the right one immediately. Young-hee's voice trembled. This event is in 2 hours. 2 hours. Vivian threw the dress at her. Pick all this up and get out of my sight. You're done here. Please, Mrs. Kong, I need this job. My mother is sick in. Not my problem. Vivian turned and saw Viridia in the doorway. What are you staring at? Don't you have toilets to clean? Viridia stepped into the room. I finished the guest bathrooms. I came to help Young-hee. Did I ask for your help? Get back to your own tasks. Viridia didn't move. Young-hee, I'll help you organize these. Mrs. Kong, I believe your sapphire blue dress is still at the dry cleaners. I saw the ticket on your secretary's desk this morning. Vivian's eyes widened, first in surprise, then fury. Then, strangely, something like calculation. Fine. Young-hee, go collect my dress from the cleaners. Now. As the girl scurried away gratefully, Vivian turned to Viridia. You've just volunteered to finish her work along with yours. I expect perfection. After Vivian left, Viridia began hanging up the scattered clothes. That's when she noticed the photographs on Vivian's vanity, pictures of her at various social events. But one caught Viridia's eye. A garden party from several years ago. And in the background, barely visible, Min Kong with a woman who must be Soo-yeon. They were laughing together. And behind them, serving drinks, Vilika. Viridia quickly took out her phone and snapped a picture of the photograph. First connection confirmed. Across town, Min Kong sat in a private room at the back of a restaurant that his family had owned for 3 generations. The room had no windows, one door, and swept for listening devices weekly. Director Han sat across from him. Two other men, department heads for construction and imports, flanked them. The Port Authority issue is resolved, Director Han said. The new contact is reliable. Min Kong nodded. The Incheon project? On schedule, but the Zhang family is asking for more money. They agreed to terms. They've reconsidered. Director Han slid over a document. They believe their risk is greater than initially. The door opened. Min Kang's hand moved to his waistband automatically. One of his security team stood there, face tight. Sir, we have a situation. Min Kang stood. Excuse me, gentlemen. In the hallway, his security guard spoke in a low voice. Park Sung-min is here. With 4 men. Park. A mid-level competitor who'd been pushing boundaries for months. What does he want? To talk. His words. Min Kang straightened his jacket. Let him approach. Alone. When Park entered the hallway, Min Kang saw the disrespect immediately. No bow, hands in pockets, smirking. Young, ambitious, stupid. Kong. Surprised to see me? Surprised by your manners. Or lack of them. Min Kang kept his voice level. Times are changing. Old ways, old men. Park shrugged. I'm here to give you a friendly warning. The Incheon project. Drop it. Min Kang studied him. You've been talking to the Zhang family. Smart man. Yes. We have an understanding now. An understanding based on what? You're 3 years in this business. Your father's failed construction company. Min Kang stepped closer. You have 10 seconds to leave my property. Park laughed. Or what? You'll call your ghost army? Everyone knows you've gone soft, Kong. After your girlfriend died. Min Kang moved so fast that Park didn't have time to step back. One moment they were talking, the next Park was against the wall, Min Kang's hand around his throat. Never mention her again. His voice was deadly quiet. You have new friends now, I understand. So deliver them a message. His free hand came up with something that glinted in the light, a letter opener from the reception desk. He placed it against Park's cheek. The Incheon project is mine. The port is mine. Cross me again, and I'll take back what's mine from your still-breathing body. Piece by piece. He released Park, who stumbled, gasping. 10 seconds. Starting now. Park fled. Director Han appeared in the doorway, having witnessed everything. Should we increase security at Incheon? Min Kang straightened his cuffs, perfectly calm again. Yes. And find out who in the Zhang family has been talking to Park. As Min Kang returned to the meeting room, he noticed his hands were perfectly steady. The brief violence had cleared his head in a way nothing else did these days. For a moment, he had felt something other than grief. Back at the mansion, Viridia spent her dinner break in the staff quarters, talking casually with 2 housekeepers who'd been with the family for years. The house has changed so much, sighed Mrs. Lee, the older of the 2. Before Mrs. Kong came, it was a happier place. Was that when Soo-yeon was here? Viridia asked, keeping her voice casual. The women exchanged glances. Miss Soo-yeon brought light wherever she went, Mrs. Lee said softly. Mr. Kong was different then. He smiled. Were there many staff changes after the accident? Mrs. Kim, the younger housekeeper, nodded. Several left. 2 sad to stay. And others? Others? They just didn't come back. Like that nice American girl. Viridia's heart jumped. American? She worked here for a few months. Quiet. Polite. Learned Korean so fast. Mrs. Lee shook her head. Then one day, gone. No goodbye. Do you remember her name? Vi something. Foreign names are hard. Vilica. Viridia tried to keep her voice steady. Yes. Vilica. She and Miss Soo-yeon were friendly. They practiced English together. Mrs. Kim frowned. Didn't she leave right after the accident? I thought. The door opened and Mrs. Park stuck her head in. Break's over. Mrs. Kong wants the dining room prepared for her guests tonight. As they dispersed, Viridia made mental notes. Confirmation that Vilica and Soo-yeon knew each other. That Vilica disappeared around the same time as the accident. That the staff believed she had simply left. But Viridia knew her sister would never leave without a word. Not without being forced to. Evening fell, bringing rain that drummed against the windows. Viridia finished serving Vivian's dinner party, 8 society women who picked at their food and gossiped about people not present. Min Kong was notably absent. By midnight, Viridia had completed most of her impossible task list. Her muscles ached, but her mind was racing. As she finished closing up the kitchen, she glanced out the window toward the garden. A solitary figure stood in the rain, Min Kong, face tilted up to the sky, getting soaked. Grabbing an umbrella from the stand, Viridia headed outside. The garden smelled of wet earth and night-blooming flowers. Min Kong didn't turn as she approached, though she knew he heard her. She held the umbrella over him without speaking. Rain pattered against the fabric. After a long moment, he said, I don't need protection from the rain. Everyone needs protection from something. He turned then, looking at her with those empty eyes. Water dripped from his hair down his face. Why are you really here, Miss Fides? I told you. I needed a job. No. His gaze was unflinching. No one chooses to work for my wife unless they have another reason. The rain fell harder around them. In the dim garden lights, his face looked carved from stone, beautiful and cold. Maybe I'm curious, she said. About what? About what makes a man stand in the rain at midnight. About why a house this big feels so empty. She paused. About what happened 3 years ago. He stiffened. That's not your concern. Isn't it? This house is full of ghosts, Mr. Kong. I'm starting to think they want to be found. Some things are better left buried. His voice had a dangerous edge. Is that what happened to Soo-yeon? She was buried along with the truth? His hand shot out, gripping her wrist hard. The umbrella tilted, sending a cascade of water over them both. Don't say her name. His voice was barely a whisper. You don't have the right. Did my sister have the right? He froze. What? My sister. Vilica Fides. She worked here 3 years ago. Viridia held his gaze. She disappeared the same night Soo-yeon died. Did you know that, Mr. Kong? His grip loosened. Confusion crossed his face. Your sister. Was the American maid who vanished. The one who was friends with your fiancé. The one no one seems to remember clearly. Viridia pulled her arm free. I'm here to find out what happened to her. Min Kong stared at her, rain streaming down his face. I didn't know. Know what? That she disappeared? Or why? Either. He ran a hand through his wet hair. There was a lot of staff turnover after the accident. I wasn't paying attention to details. Well, I am. And something's not right in this house. She straightened the umbrella. Someone doesn't want the truth about that night to come out. But I'm going to find it anyway. She turned to go, but he caught her arm again, gentler this time. Be careful who you tell about your sister. His eyes held a warning. Some questions in this house are dangerous to ask. Are you threatening me? I'm trying to protect you. He let her go. Whatever happened to your sister, I'm sorry. But digging into the past won't bring her back. Neither will standing in the rain at midnight, she replied quietly. Yet here you are. She left him there, the umbrella now in his hand, his expression unreadable in the darkness. Back in her room, Viridia changed out of her wet clothes and sat on the edge of her bed, thinking. Min Kong seemed genuinely surprised about her sister. Either he was an excellent actor, or he truly didn't know about Vilika's connection to that night. She scanned her room carefully, looking for anything out of place. That's when she saw it, a tiny black dot near the ceiling light. A camera. Not the obvious security cameras throughout the house. Something smaller. Newer. She pretended not to notice, continuing her routine of preparing for bed. But her mind was racing. Someone was watching her specifically. After she turned off the lights and slipped under the covers, she waited. 1 hour. 2. Until the house was completely silent. 3:17 a.m. She moved. Using her phone as a dim light guide, Viridia navigated through the darkened house to the security room off the main hallway. The night guard made rounds every 30 minutes, leaving the room empty for brief periods. She'd timed it perfectly. The room was unoccupied. Slipping inside, she found what she needed, a computer terminal with access to the security system. Her prosecutor training included basic digital forensics. Enough to navigate the system. She searched for archived footage, scanning backward through time. 3 years ago. June 17th. The night of the accident. There should be footage from every camera in the house. But when she reached that date, she found nothing. A gap in the records. Someone had deleted everything from a 3-day period surrounding Soo-Yun's death. And Vilika's disappearance. Viridia's hands trembled slightly as she dug deeper. System logs showed the deletion occurred recently, just 6 months ago. Someone was still actively covering their tracks. Footsteps in the hallway. The guard returning. Viridia quickly exited the system, slipped out the secondary door, and pressed herself into an alcove as the guard passed. Back in her room, she stared at the ceiling, mind racing. The footage was deleted for a reason. Something happened in this house that someone wanted erased forever. But Min Kang's reaction in the garden seemed genuine. If he didn't order the deletion, who did? Vivian? Director Han? Grandmother Kim? Viridia closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Tomorrow was day 3. And she was getting closer to a truth that someone would kill to protect. Day 7 in the Kong mansion. A full week of Vivian's impossible tasks. A full week of pretending to be just a maid. A full week of gathering small pieces of information like breadcrumbs that might lead somewhere, or nowhere. Viridia's muscles had adjusted to the constant work. Her mind had mapped every corner of the mansion, except for that locked room in the east wing. And her patience was starting to pay off. She'd established a routine. Up at 5:30 a.m. Kitchen duties until 7 o'clock. Serve breakfast. Clean until lunch. Serve lunch. More cleaning. Serve dinner. Finish evening duties by 10 p.m. Then the real work began, the quiet investigations after everyone else was asleep. This morning, Viridia was polishing silverware in the dining room when Min Kong entered, earlier than usual. He paused when he saw her, watching as she worked methodically. "You're still here," he said. Viridia glanced up. "Should I not be? Most of my wife's projects quit by now." He stepped closer, examining a spoon she just polished. "She's been particularly hard on you." "I've dealt with worse prosecutors than Mrs. Kong." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Min Kang's eyes narrowed slightly. An unusual comparison for a maid to make. Viridia kept her face neutral. A mistake. She needed to be more careful. "My father was a lawyer," she said smoothly. "I grew up around difficult personalities." Min Kong studied her for a long moment, then changed the subject. "There's a dinner tonight. Important business associates. My wife is handling the arrangements. I've been preparing since yesterday." "Have you?" He leaned against the table, too casual. "Tell me, Miss Fides, what have you noticed about this house in your week here?" A test. She could feel it. The East Wing is off limits. Mrs. Kim prefers traditional foods but secretly enjoys American chocolate. Your wife dislikes most of the staff but is careful around Mrs. Park. And you. She met his eyes. You never eat breakfast. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Observant. It's my job to notice details. Is it? He straightened. Tonight's guests are important. Some don't speak English. Some will be difficult. I understand. Do you? He moved toward the door, then paused. My wife will be watching you carefully tonight. So will I. After he left, Viridia exhaled slowly. He was getting suspicious. She needed to be more careful and work faster. Tonight might be an opportunity to gather more information about Min Kang's business associates. People who might have known what happened 3 years ago. The kitchen was chaos by afternoon. 5 additional staff had been brought in just for the dinner. Mrs. Park barked orders like a general. Crystal glasses, not the regular ones. The imported caviar goes on ice. Mrs. Kong wants fresh flowers on the table. Viridia moved efficiently, helping where needed, listening to everything. The guest list was discussed in hurried whispers. Important people, powerful people. The kind who could make problems disappear. As she arranged flowers in the dining room, Vivian entered with her personal assistant. No, and oh. Vivian pointed at the centerpiece. These are all wrong. I specifically said white orchids, not these common things. These were what the florist delivered, Mrs. Kong, Viridia explained calmly. The card says, as requested. Are you calling me a liar? Vivian's eyes flashed dangerously. I'm just telling you what was delivered. Vivian stepped closer. Tonight is important. Everything must be perfect. My husband's associates expect the best, and I will not have some incompetent American maid embarrassing me. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not convinced you understand your place here. Vivian looked her up and down with disgust. Make sure you stay in the background tonight. Speak only when spoken to. And fix your hair, you look like you slept in a car. After Vivian left, her assistant lingered. I'm sorry, she whispered. She's extra tense tonight. These guests, they're not the usual crowd. Viridia nodded. Business associates? More like necessary evils. The assistant glanced around nervously. The Kong business interests are complex. Complex. That was one way to put it. Viridia had already figured out that the Kong family's legitimate businesses were just the surface. Beneath ran currents of something darker. By 7 o'clock, the mansion was transformed. Every light gleamed. Music played softly. Staff moved like shadows, invisible but essential. Viridia wore the formal serving uniform, black dress, white collar, hair pulled back severely. She stationed herself near the kitchen entrance, watching as guests arrived. They came in expensive cars with tinted windows. Men in sharp suits, some with bodyguards who remained in the foyer. Women dripping in jewelry, their smiles never reaching their eyes. Min Kong greeted each one personally, Vivian at his side. They looked like the perfect power couple, him in a tailored suit that probably cost more than a car, her in a designer dress that hugged every curve. But Viridia noticed how they never quite touched. How his smile disappeared the moment guests looked away. Director Han arrived last, moving through the room with easy confidence. Unlike the others, he seemed genuinely comfortable here. He caught Viridia's eye across the room and nodded slightly. Dinner was served at 8. 12 guests seated around the ornate table. Viridia and 2 other servers moved silently, pouring wine, serving courses, disappearing when not needed. The conversation flowed in a mix of Korean and English. Business talk mostly, carefully worded. Property acquisitions. Import challenges. Regulatory hurdles. The language of money and power, dressed up to sound legitimate. Viridia kept her eyes down, her ears open. Names were mentioned, government officials, competing businesses, police captains. She committed each to memory. During the third course, one of the guests, an older man with cold eyes, addressed her directly in Korean. You. Girl. More wine. Viridia moved to refill his glass. As she leaned forward, he placed his hand over hers on the bottle. You're new, he said, switching to English heavily accented. American? Yes, sir. His thumb stroked her wrist. Interesting. Kong, where did you find this one? She's not the usual type. Min Kang's voice was neutral. My grandmother's choice. Ah, the matriarch still pulling strings? The man laughed, but didn't release Viridia's hand. Maybe when you're done with her here, she can come work for me. I have positions that would suit her. Several guests chuckled. Vivian's smile was tight at the head of the table. I'm sure she's perfectly happy here, Min Kong replied, his tone unchanged but something dangerous flickering in his eyes. The man finally released Viridia's hand. Shame. Pretty hands. Good for more than carrying plates, I think. Viridia stepped back, face expressionless, though her skin crawled. As she moved to the next guest, she caught Min Kong watching her, his gaze unreadable. The dinner continued. More wine flowed. Conversations became looser. And then came the moment Viridia had been dreading, Vivian, slightly drunk and looking for entertainment. So tell us about this new maid, she said loudly, gesturing toward Viridia. My mother-in-law found her in some Chicago ghetto or something. The table quieted. All eyes turned to Viridia, who stood against the wall. She doesn't bow properly, Vivian continued. Doesn't know her place. Maybe it's an American thing, this attitude. One of the women laughed. You should discipline her properly, Vivian. My housekeeper tried that independent nonsense. One night without dinner fixed it quickly. Oh, I've tried everything, Vivian sighed dramatically. She's quite stubborn. Aren't you, Viridia? Viridia kept her face neutral. I try to perform my duties efficiently, Mrs. Kong. See? So formal. Vivian smiled, but her eyes were cold. Tell us, what did you do in America before coming here? I'm sure everyone's curious about your background. A trap. Vivian was fishing, trying to make her reveal something in front of everyone. I worked for a government office, Viridia said carefully. Government? How fascinating. Vivian's smile widened. What kind of government work? Cleaning toilets there too. Laughter rippled around the table. Viridia felt her cheeks warm slightly. Administrative work, Mrs. Kong. And yet now you're serving wine to your betters. Vivian raised her glass mockingly. Life takes such interesting turns, doesn't it? Min Kong set down his glass with a sharp click. I believe we were discussing the Incheon project before this digression. Director Han quickly picked up the thread. Yes, the permits have finally cleared. We can begin phase 2 next month. The conversation shifted. Vivian shot Viridia a venomous look, then turned her attention back to the guests. But Viridia had seen it, the brief moment when Min Kong had intervened. Not obviously defending her, but steering the conversation away from Vivian's cruelty. It was subtle, but it was there. A tiny crack in his carefully maintained indifference. By midnight, the guests had departed. The staff was cleaning up. Vivian had gone upstairs, complaining of a headache. Viridia was gathering wine glasses when Director Han approached. Quite an evening, he said casually. Yes, sir. He studied her with intelligent eyes. You handled Vivian's attention well. Most would have broken. Viridia continued working. I'm just doing my job. Are you? He leaned against the table. You notice things. You listen. Your eyes follow conversations. Not typical maid behavior. She looked up then, meeting his gaze. Is there something you need, Director Han? Just curious. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Min Kong mentioned your sister used to work here. Quite a coincidence. A chill ran through her. Min Kong had told him about Villica. Yes. She spoke highly of the position. Did she? Director Han straightened his already perfect tie. Strange she never mentioned having a sister when she worked here. We weren't close then. Viridia kept her voice steady. I see. He nodded slightly. Well, family is complicated. Isn't it? Before she could respond, he walked away, leaving Viridia with the distinct feeling she'd been warned. After finishing the cleanup, Viridia couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying the dinner, the conversations, the warning in Director Han's words. She decided to check the library. In her explorations, she'd discovered it held family photographs and records, potential sources of information. The library was dark, lit only by moonlight through tall windows. Viridia used her phone's flashlight, keeping it dim and pointed downward to avoid detection from outside. She examined the shelves carefully, looking for anything from 3 years ago. Photo albums. Journals. Business records. On a bottom shelf, she found a collection of books with Korean poetry. Something drew her to one volume. It looked well handled, the spine cracked from use. Opening it, she found English notes in the margins. Translations of the Korean poems. And the handwriting. Her heart stopped. It was Villica's. Her sister's neat, slightly slanted script. Careful translations. On the inside cover, a small note, for S, to help with your English studies. Friends share beautiful things. S. Suyun. This was Villica's book. A gift to Min Kang's fiancé. Proof they weren't just employer and employee, but friends. Viridia was so absorbed in the discovery that she didn't hear the footsteps until they were right outside the library door. Quickly, She slipped the book into her pocket and ducked behind a large armchair. The door opened. Min Kong entered, looking exhausted. He went straight to the liquor cabinet, poured a generous amount of whiskey, and dropped heavily into a chair, the very one Viridia was hiding behind. She held her breath, trapped. Min Kong sighed deeply, the sound of a man carrying too much weight. What a farce, he muttered to himself in Korean. He took a long drink. Viridia stayed perfectly still, praying he wouldn't notice her. Then he spoke again, quieter this time. I'm sorry, Soo-yun. I'm still trying. The raw pain in his voice made Viridia's chest tighten. This wasn't the cold businessman from dinner. This was just a man, broken and alone. She must have made some small noise because suddenly he stiffened. Who's there? His voice was instantly hard again. Viridia had no choice. She stood up slowly from behind the chair. It's just me, Mr. Kong. His face darkened with anger. What are you doing here? Spying on me? No. I couldn't sleep. I was looking for something to read. In the dark? Without turning on a light? His eyes narrowed. Try again. Viridia decided on a partial truth. I was looking for information about my sister. I know she was friends with Soo-yun. The anger in his face shifted to something else, surprise, then confusion. Friends? Soo-yun didn't befriend the staff. She befriended my sister. Viridia pulled out the poetry book. This was Vilika's. She gave it to Soo-yun to help with English. Min Kong stared at the book like it might burn him. Slowly, he set down his glass and held out his hand. Viridia hesitated, then passed him the book. He opened it carefully, fingers tracing the handwritten notes. When he reached the inscription, his face changed completely, softening in a way Viridia hadn't seen before. I never knew, he said quietly. Soo-yun was studying English, but she never mentioned. He looked up at Viridia. Your sister taught her? They practiced together, it seems. Min Kong closed the book gently. Soo-yun kept many things to herself. Her own world that I wasn't fully part of. The admission seemed to surprise even him. He looked down at his whiskey, then back at Viridia. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair opposite. Viridia sat, watching him cautiously. Tonight, he began, my wife was trying to humiliate you. Why didn't you quit? Most would have. I need this job. No. You need answers about your sister. He studied her intently. You said she disappeared the same night as the accident? Yes. Her last message to me was that she'd found something important. Min Kang's face darkened. Important enough to get her killed? I don't know. Viridia met his gaze steadily. But I think someone in this house does. He was silent for a long moment, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. 3 years ago, I lost everything that mattered, he finally said. Since then, I've been existing. Not living. He took another drink. Your determination to find the truth about your sister. I admire it. Even if it's dangerous. Is that a warning? It's an observation. He set down his glass. This house has secrets, Miss Fides. Some of them are mine. Some belong to others. Disturbing them won't bring your sister back. But it might bring justice. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe. Justice is a luxury in my world. Not in mine. For the first time, Min Kong almost smiled. No. I don't imagine it is. He stood, suddenly looking very tired. Keep the book. It belonged to your sister first. He walked to the door, then paused. My wife and Director Han. Watch them carefully. Before she could ask what he meant, he was gone. Viridia stayed in the library for a while, examining the book for any other clues. Finally, exhaustion overtook her and she headed back to her room. As she passed Min Kang's bedroom, she heard it, a cry of distress. Another. The sounds of someone in the grip of a nightmare. She paused, unsure what to do. Then decided, none of her business. She turned to go. Another cry, this one formed a name. Su-yun. Against her better judgment, Viridia pushed open the door slightly. Min Kang was tangled in his sheets, his face contorted in pain, still fully dressed from dinner. Don't go. He mumbled, thrashing slightly. Viridia stepped inside, moved to the bedside table, and poured a glass of water from the carafe there. She didn't wake him, that seemed too intimate, too presumptuous. Instead, she placed the water where he'd see it when he woke, and quietly retreated. As she reached the door, his phone alarm went off, 11:23 p.m. The sound seemed to penetrate his nightmare. He bolted upright, gasping, eyes wide and unseeing. Then his gaze focused on her standing in the doorway. For a moment, they just looked at each other across the darkened room. Him, vulnerable and shaken. Her, witnessing something she shouldn't. You were having a nightmare, she said softly. I heard from the hallway. He ran a hand over his face. You should go. She nodded and turned to leave. Miss Fides. His voice stopped her. Thank you. For the water. It was such a small thing, but something in the way he said it made it feel significant. A tiny crack in the wall between them. Good night, Mr. Kong. Viridia couldn't sleep. The book, the nightmare, the strange warning about Vivian and Director Han, her mind wouldn't quiet. She decided to get some air. The gardens were usually empty this late. As she approached the side door, she heard voices from the terrace. Stepping back into the shadows, she watched as Director Han emerged from the house. He checked his watch, looked around, then walked toward the garden path. Curious, Viridia followed at a distance, keeping to the shadows. Director Han stopped at a small gazebo at the far end of the garden, partially hidden by trees. He checked his watch again. 2 minutes later, another figure approached, Vivian, wrapped in a silk robe. Viridia crept closer, staying behind a large shrub. Close enough to see, not close enough to hear everything. But she didn't need to hear to understand what she was seeing. Director Han pulled Vivian into his arms. Their kiss wasn't gentle or romantic, it was hungry, desperate. Tired of waiting, Viridia caught Vivian's words as the wind carried them. Patience, Director Han replied. Almost ready. Want him gone. Careful, grandmother suspects. They pulled apart slightly, still holding each other. The American, Director Han said, loud enough for Viridia to hear clearly. She's dangerous. Asking questions. Handle it, Vivian replied. Like we handled her sister. Viridia's blood turned to ice. She must have made a sound, because both heads snapped in her direction. She froze, hardly breathing. After a tense moment, Director Han turned back to Vivian. I should go. We can't risk being seen. Vivian nodded. Tomorrow. The usual time. They parted, Director Han heading toward the house, Vivian waiting in the gazebo. Viridia stayed hidden until Director Han passed, then silently made her way back inside using a different entrance. Her mind was racing. Like we handled her sister. Confirmation. They knew about Vilica. They'd handled her. Viridia slipped back to her room, heart pounding. The game had changed. Now she knew who was responsible, or at least involved, in whatever happened to Vilica. And they knew she was looking into it. Which meant she was running out of time. Day 14 in the Kong mansion. 2 weeks of searching for answers. 2 weeks of playing a role. 2 weeks of walking on the edge of danger. And now Viridia knew for sure, Vivian and Director Han were involved in her sister's disappearance. Like we handled her sister. Those words kept repeating in her mind, pushing her to work faster, dig deeper. But she needed to be careful. They were watching her now. Min Kong sat in his downtown office, staring at the file on his desk. The background check on Viridia Fides had just arrived, much more extensive than the basic one his grandmother had done before hiring her. He flipped through the pages slowly. Education at Northwestern University. Law degree from Chicago. 5 years as a prosecutor with an impressive conviction record. Specialization in organized crime cases. Then, 3 years ago, everything changed. Leave of absence. Eventually resignation. A note about personal issues. Around the same time her sister disappeared. Around the same time Soo-Yun died. Min Kong closed the file, his face thoughtful. Not just a maid looking for her missing sister. A prosecutor. Someone trained to build cases, find evidence, pursue justice. Someone dangerous. His phone rang. Director Han. The Incheon permits are finalized, Director Han said when Min Kong answered. We can proceed with Phase 3. Good. Min Kang's voice was distracted. Is everything all right? Min Kong glanced at the closed file. Have you noticed anything unusual about the new maid? The American? A slight pause. Unusual how? Her questions. Her attention to detail. She seems competent. Director Han's voice was carefully neutral. Why do you ask? Just curious. Min Kong tapped his fingers on the desk. My grandmother seems to have taken a special interest in her. Your grandmother has always had good instincts about people. Yes. She has. Min Kang's voice hardened slightly. Keep an eye on the American. Discreetly. After hanging up, Min Kong stared out the window at the Seoul skyline. Something wasn't adding up. A former prosecutor working as a maid. His grandmother's unusual interest. The connection to Soo-Yun through her sister. Too many coincidences for a man who didn't believe in them. Viridia was dusting the main hallway when she saw her opportunity. Grandmother Kim's assistant had left the key cabinet unlocked while helping the old woman to her physical therapy session. Inside were labeled keys to every room in the mansion, including the east wing. Viridia glanced around. Nobody in sight. The security camera in this hallway had been accidentally draped with a cleaning cloth earlier, a trick that wouldn't work for long, but might give her a few minutes. Her heart racing, she quickly found the key labeled East Suite. She took out her phone, snapped a photo of the key's unique pattern, then carefully returned it to its hook. She'd get a copy made in town on her next day off. Just as she closed the cabinet, she heard footsteps. Vivian rounded the corner, talking on her phone. Don't care what it costs. Make it happen. She ended the call, eyes narrowing when she spotted Viridia. What are you doing? Dusting, Mrs. Kong. Viridia gestured to the cloth in her hand. Vivian's eyes darted to the key cabinet, then back to Viridia. In this specific area? When you should be preparing the guest rooms for tomorrow's visitors? I was working my way down the hall. Vivian stepped closer, her expensive perfume almost overwhelming. You seem very interested in areas of the house that don't concern you. I'm just doing my job, Mrs. Kong. Are you? Vivian smiled thinly. Let me make something clear. This house has rules. Boundaries. Cross them, and there are consequences. The threat hung in the air between them. I understand. Do you? Vivian looked unconvinced. My husband has been watching you. Did you know that? Viridia kept her face neutral. Mr. Kong barely notices the staff. He notices you. Vivian's voice took on a dangerous edge. And I notice him noticing. Before Viridia could respond, Vivian's phone rang again. She answered, walking away without another word. Viridia exhaled slowly. The stakes were getting higher. Vivian was jealous, which might make her careless. But also more dangerous. That afternoon, Viridia was summoned to Grandmother Kim's quarters. The old woman sat by the window, a photo album open on her lap. Come in, Miss Fides. Sit. Viridia sat across from her, noting how the afternoon light illuminated the room, making it impossible for her to see Grandmother Kim's expression clearly while the old woman could see hers perfectly. Not an accident, she suspected. 2 weeks now, Grandmother Kim said. Most don't last that long under my daughter-in-law's supervision. I'm stubborn. Yes. Like your sister was. Grandmother Kim turned a page in the album. Vilica. She had determination too. Viridia tensed. You remember her? I remember everyone who enters this house. The old woman looked up, eyes sharp despite her fragile appearance. She asked questions too. About Su-Yun. About my grandson's business. About things that didn't concern her. Warning bells sounded in Viridia's mind. She was curious by nature. Curiosity can be dangerous in this house. Grandmother Kim turned the album toward Viridia. Do you recognize this? The photograph showed a garden party. Su-Yun in a pale blue dress, laughing. Min Kong beside her, looking at her with clear adoration. And in the background, serving drinks, Vilica. Yes. My sister working at a party. Look closer. Viridia examined the photo again. This time, she noticed something. Vilica wasn't just serving drinks. She was watching Vivian, who stood off to the side, her face tight with barely concealed anger as she stared at Su-Yun and Min Kong. She was observing, Viridia said carefully. Yes. Your sister saw things others missed. Grandmother Kim closed the album. The day before the accident, she came to me. Said she had concerns about Vivian's behavior towards Su-Yun. Implied there might be threats. Viridia's pulse quickened. What did you do? I told her to bring me evidence. Grandmother Kim's voice softened slightly. She never got the chance. You think Vivian was involved in what happened to Su-Yun? The old woman's eyes were unreadable. I think the official story, that Su-Yun's car crash was an accident, is too simple. I think your sister knew something. And I think that's why she disappeared. And you hired me because you have the same eyes. The same determination. Grandmother Kim reached out, her wrinkled hand surprisingly strong as it gripped Viridia's. But also the same blindness. You see only one path to the truth. What other path is there? Sometimes to catch a predator, you must first understand its nature. The old woman released her hand. My grandson is not the enemy, Miss Fides. His grief is real. His pain is real. But his blindness to what happens around him, that is dangerous. Viridia processed this carefully. Are you saying he doesn't know what really happened? I'm saying grief can be a cage that keeps us from seeing what's right in front of us. Grandmother Kim adjusted her shawl. The night of the accident, there were 2 cars involved. The police report mentioned a second vehicle that left the scene. Did you know that? Viridia shook her head. The news only reported Soo-Yun's car going off the road. Because that's the story that was given to the press. Grandmother Kim's voice was quiet. 2 cars. 2 victims. But only one body was found. The implication hit Viridia like a physical blow. You think Vilica was in the second car? The old woman didn't answer directly. Check the locked room. Find what your sister found. But be careful, others are watching too. As Viridia stood to leave, Grandmother Kim added, tonight is the anniversary. 14 days after she died, 3 years ago. He'll be more vulnerable than usual. And more dangerous. Evening found Viridia in the kitchen, helping prepare dinner. Min Kong had returned home unusually early, locking himself in his study. Vivian was out at some social event. The house felt quiet, tense. Mrs. Park instructed Viridia to prepare a special tea for Min Kong, something he apparently requested on this day each year. Be careful with it, Mrs. Park warned. It's very hot and he likes it served in the glass set, not ceramic. Viridia prepared the tea carefully, arranging the delicate glass pot and cup on a silver tray. As she lifted it to carry to Min Kang's study, Director Han entered the kitchen. He stopped when he saw her, something calculating in his eyes. Taking tea to the boss? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. How thoughtful. Mrs. Park's instructions. Of course. He moved closer, as if inspecting the tray. Beautiful glassware. Very expensive. Very fragile. Something in his tone made Viridia's skin crawl. He reached out as if to adjust something on the tray, but instead gave it a slight, deliberate nudge. The hot teapot slid, tipping toward the edge. Viridia compensated quickly, steadying the tray, but not before some of the scalding liquid splashed onto her hand. She bit back a cry of pain. Oh, how clumsy of me, Director Han said, his eyes cold. You should be more careful. Accidents happen so easily in this house. As he turned to leave, he added quietly, especially to those who ask too many questions. Viridia's burned hand throbbed as she carried the tray to Min Kang's study. The message couldn't have been clearer, a warning delivered with plausible deniability. If questioned, Director Han could claim it was simply an accident. She knocked on Min Kang's door with her good hand. Enter. Inside, Min Kang sat behind his desk, the room dimly lit. He looked exhausted, shadows under his eyes, hair slightly disheveled as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. Your tea, Mr. Kang. He looked up, his eyes focusing on her with effort. Just set it down. As Viridia placed the tray on his desk, he noticed her reddened hand. His brow furrowed. What happened? Just a small burn. The tea spilled. He reached out and took her hand, examining it with a gentleness that surprised her. This needs treatment. It's fine, really. It's a second-degree burn. His voice was firm but not unkind. Sit. There's a first aid kit in the drawer. Too surprised to argue, Viridia sat as he retrieved a small white box from his desk drawer. With practiced movements, he applied burn cream to her hand, his touch clinical but careful. How did it happen? He asked, not looking up from his task. Viridia hesitated. The tray was heavy. I wasn't careful enough. That's not what I asked. His eyes met hers. How did it happen? Something in his gaze told her he already suspected the truth. Director Han entered the kitchen. The tray became unbalanced when he examined it. Min Kang's jaw tightened. Deliberately? It could have been an accident. But you don't think it was? It wasn't a question. Viridia said nothing, which was answer enough. Min Kang finished bandaging her hand, then sat back. Director Han has been with me for 10 years. One of my most trusted associates. I see. But lately. He trailed off, then shook his head. Why would he warn you off? Viridia chose her words carefully. Perhaps he's protective of you. I ask a lot of questions. About your sister. Min Kang poured the tea, the movement precise despite his evident fatigue. Who disappeared the same night Soo-yeon died? Yes. He sipped his tea, studying her over the rim of the glass. Tell me, Miss Fides. When you were a prosecutor in Chicago, did you specialize in any particular type of cases? The question hit her like a slap. He knew. Viridia didn't bother denying it. Organized crime, primarily. Successful? Reasonably. Min Kang set down his cup. So a prosecutor who specialized in organized crime cases decides to work as a maid in my house. After her sister disappears under mysterious circumstances. 3 years ago today. It's not a coincidence. No. His eyes hardened. It's an investigation. The air between them crackled with tension. Your grandmother knew who I was when she hired me, Viridia said quietly. My grandmother plays her own games. He stood, walking to the window. Today is the anniversary of when they found Soo-yeon's car. At the bottom of a ravine, off Mountain Road 7. She'd been dead for hours by then. His voice was flat, emotionless, as if reciting facts from a report. But his hands were clenched at his sides. I'm sorry, Viridia said softly. Are you? He turned back to her. Or is my grief just a tool for your investigation? A weakness to exploit? I don't think your grief is a weakness, Mr. Kang. Then what do you think it is? A cage, she said, echoing Grandmother Kim's words. One that keeps you from seeing what's happening around you. Something flashed in his eyes, recognition, perhaps. Or anger. And what exactly is happening around me, Miss Fides? Please, enlighten me. Viridia stood, facing him directly. Someone in this house knows what happened to Soo-yeon. The same someone who knows what happened to my sister. And they're willing to kill to keep that secret. Dramatic accusations without evidence. His voice was cold. I expected better from a prosecutor. I have evidence. Not enough yet, but I'm getting closer. She stepped toward him. Your wife and Director Han are having an affair. Min Kang didn't look surprised. My marriage exists on paper only. What Vivian does is her concern, not mine. Even if she was involved in Soo-yeon's death? The words hung in the air between them. Min Kang's face went completely still. Be very careful what you're suggesting. I'm not suggesting. I'm telling you what I heard. Viridia held his gaze. I overheard them talking about how they'd handled my sister. The same way they handled something 3 years ago. For a long moment, Min Kang just stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then he moved suddenly, crossing the room to lock the door. When he turned back, his eyes were dangerous. Who are you really? And why are you asking about Vilica Fides? Viridia stood her ground, even as her heart raced. I told you. She was my sister. And I'm supposed to believe you came here, infiltrated my home, just to find answers about a missing sibling? He stepped closer. Or is it simpler? Perhaps you're building a case. Perhaps I'm the target. If I were building a case against you, Mr. Kong, I wouldn't be standing here telling you about it. His laugh was harsh. So noble. So righteous. The crusading prosecutor seeking justice. Another step closer. Do you know what happens to people who threaten my family? Who disrupt my business? They were inches apart now, his anger a palpable force. Are you threatening me? Viridia asked quietly. I'm asking who sent you. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Federal prosecutors? Rival organizations? Who? No one sent me. I'm here for my sister. Only my sister. Min Kong searched her face, looking for deception. Whatever he saw made him step back slightly. If you're lying to me. I'm not. Viridia took a deep breath. But I'm not just a maid looking for her sister either. I'm a prosecutor who knows how to build a case. And right now, all the evidence points to someone in this house being responsible for 2 deaths. And you think I'm involved. I think you're surrounded by people you trust who may not deserve that trust. Min Kang's phone alarm went off, 11:23 p.m. Neither of them moved as it rang in the sudden silence. When it finally stopped, Min Kang spoke, his voice different now. Tired. Almost defeated. If what you're suggesting is true, if someone I trusted was responsible for Suyun's death. He didn't finish the thought. Help me find the truth, Viridia said quietly. For Suyun. For Vilika. Min Kang looked at her, really looked at her, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. The truth may not be what either of us wants to find. But we both need it. Viridia held out her bandaged hand. Truce. At least until we know more. After a long moment, Min Kang took her hand in a brief, firm grip. Not a truce. A partnership. Limited and temporary. His eyes were deadly serious. But understand this, if I discover you've lied to me about anything, there won't be enough evidence in the world to save you. As Viridia left his study, she felt something shift between them. Not trust, exactly. But something like recognition. 2 people hunting for the same truth, from opposite sides of a divide. And somewhere in the house, watching from shadows, those who would kill to keep that truth buried. Dawn crept through the windows of the Kang mansion, painting shadows across silent hallways. Neither Min Kang nor Viridia had slept after their confrontation in his study. The truth, or at least pieces of it, lay between them now, changing everything. Viridia stood in the kitchen, mechanically preparing breakfast trays. Her bandaged hand throbbed, a constant reminder of Director Han's warning. The burn wasn't severe, but it sent a clear message: stop asking questions. But she couldn't stop now. Not when she was finally getting somewhere. The kitchen door swung open. Min Kang entered, already dressed in a perfectly tailored suit despite the early hour. Their eyes met briefly before he looked away. Coffee, he said simply, his voice giving nothing away. Mrs. Park hurried to prepare it, but Viridia beat her to it. I've got it. She poured the coffee black, the way he always took it, and placed it on the counter. Their fingers brushed as he took the cup, a moment of contact that seemed to pause the world around them. Your hand, he said quietly. How is it? Fine. He nodded, sipped his coffee, then said in an equally low voice, my office. 10 minutes. After he left, Mrs. Park gave Viridia a curious look. Mr. Kang never talks to staff in the morning. He probably wants to complain about something I did wrong, Viridia said with a shrug, turning back to her work. But they both knew that wasn't true. 10 minutes later, Viridia knocked on Min Kang's office door. Enter. He stood by the window, looking out at the garden. Without turning, he said, "Close the door." Viridia did, then waited. The morning light cast half his face in shadow, making him look like two different people merged into one. "I had you investigated further," he finally said. "Your record in Chicago was impressive. 17 convictions against organized crime figures. 2 major conspiracy cases. The youngest ADA in your district to lead a RICO prosecution. You've been thorough." "I'm always thorough." He turned to face her. "What I can't figure out is why someone with your career would throw it all away to chase a missing sister. Wouldn't you?" Her question hung between them. "If it was someone you loved?" Something flickered in his eyes, recognition, perhaps. Or respect. "Tell me about your sister," he said, gesturing for her to sit. Viridia took the chair opposite his desk. "Vilica was 2 years younger than me. Brilliant. Languages came easily to her. She learned Korean to study abroad here. When she needed more money for school, she started working for high-end families as a language tutor and household assistant." "How did she end up here?" "She applied through an agency. Said the pay was excellent." Viridia's voice softened. "We talked every week. She loved it here at first. Said the house was beautiful. The work wasn't hard. She mentioned practicing English with your fiancé." Min Kang's jaw tightened at the mention of Soo-yun, but he didn't interrupt. Then things changed. Her messages became strange. Cryptic. She said she'd noticed something concerning. Viridia looked directly at him. "The last text I got from her said, 'I found something important. We'll call tomorrow with details.'" "When was this?" "June 15th, 3 years ago. 2 days before Soo-yun's accident." Min Kang stood abruptly, walking to a cabinet where he pulled out a bottle of water. He offered one to Viridia, who shook her head. "What did you do when she disappeared?" he asked. "Everything. Filed police reports. Contacted the embassy. Flew to Seoul and searched for weeks." Viridia's hands tightened in her lap. "The police said she probably just left the job. Maybe met someone. Maybe went traveling. They showed me her resignation letter." "Resignation letter?" "Yes. Supposedly she gave 2 weeks' notice, but decided to leave early. Signed and dated the day before the accident. I never saw any resignation letter." Min Kang frowned. "Who would have processed that?" "Your household manager at the time. And Director Han, who apparently handled staff paperwork when it involved foreign workers." Min Kang's expression darkened. "That's convenient." "Very." Viridia leaned forward slightly. "Now it's your turn. Tell me about that night." For a moment, she thought he might refuse. Then he sat heavily in his chair. "I was in Tokyo on business. Had been there 3 days." His voice was flat, emotionless. Soo-yun called that afternoon. She seemed anxious. Said she needed to talk to me about something important. I told her I'd be back the next day. Did she say what it was about? No. A flicker of pain crossed his face. I was in a meeting. Told her it could wait. That's the last time He stopped, jaw clenched. Viridia waited, giving him space. 11:23 p.m. The hotel phone rang. Local police. They'd found her car at the bottom of a ravine on Mountain Road 7. Said she'd been dead for hours. Was anyone else in the car with her? Min Kang looked up sharply. No. She was alone. Are you sure? The police report. The official police report mentions a second vehicle involved in the accident, Viridia interrupted gently. One that left the scene. Min Kong went still. How do you know that? Your grandmother told me. My grandmother. He laughed humorlessly. Of course she did. He ran a hand through his hair. The second vehicle was never found. The theory was a hit and run that forced her off the road. Or someone who was with her when it happened. Someone who survived. Their eyes met across the desk, the implication hanging between them. You think your sister was in that second car? I think it's a possibility we need to consider. Min Kong stood again, restless energy radiating from him. If what you're suggesting is true, if someone in this house was responsible for Soo-Yun's death and your sister's disappearance, then we're dealing with more than just an accident. We're dealing with murder, Viridia said quietly. And a cover-up. With my wife and Director Han at the center of it. Possibly. Viridia chose her words carefully. But we need proof. Hard evidence. Min Kong turned to her, his eyes cold and determined. Then let's find it. Okay, I have to pause here because what happens next changes everything. This is the moment Min Kong and Viridia cross a line they can never uncross. If you're invested in their story and want to see the explosive truth that's about to come out, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode like this one. Smash that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know who else just gasped at that revelation. The next few hours passed in careful strategy. They couldn't be seen working together openly. Min Kong suggested Viridia continue her normal duties while he made inquiries about the accident report. They would meet again that evening to share what they'd found. What neither of them knew was that they were already being watched. Vivian sat in her private sitting room, applying her makeup with precise, angry strokes. Director Han stood by the window, his reflection visible in her vanity mirror. He's investigating the accident again, Director Han said. Called the detective who handled the case this morning. Let him. There's nothing to find. Vivian's voice was ice. The official report is airtight. It's not the official report I'm worried about. Director Han turned to face her. It's what his new pet Maid is digging up. The American? Vivian scoffed. She's just staff. She's Vilika Fides' sister. His voice sharpened. A former prosecutor who specialized in organized crime cases. And now she's got your husband's ear. Vivian's hand froze, lipstick hovering near her mouth. What did you say? You heard me. She's not here by accident. She's investigating her sister's disappearance. Director Han's reflection grew larger as he approached. And my sources say she's good. Very good. Vivian carefully finished applying her lipstick before turning to face him. Then we have a problem. We have several problems. Your husband's grandmother brought her here deliberately. She's always suspected us. The old witch suspects everyone. Vivian stood, smoothing her dress. What do your contacts in the police say? Nothing about the case has been reopened officially. And the other matter? Director Han's voice dropped lower. Still secure. No one has found anything. Good. Vivian stepped closer to him. Then we stick to the plan. 2 more weeks, and none of this will matter. And the American? Vivian's smile was cold. I think it's time she had an accident. Something unfortunate. Director Han nodded. I'll take care of it. Tonight. No. Not yet. Vivian placed a manicured hand on his chest. First, let's see what she knows. What evidence she might have already gathered. How? Her room. while she's serving dinner. Search it thoroughly. Director Han leaned down, placing a brief kiss on Vivian's lips. Always thinking ahead. That's why we work so well together. That's why we'll win, she corrected, wiping a trace of lipstick from his mouth. Now go. My husband will be looking for you. After Director Han left, Vivian returned to her vanity. Her reflection stared back, perfect and composed. But her eyes were calculating. 3 years, she whispered to herself. 3 years waiting. No one will stop us now. Min Kong found his grandmother in her traditional tea room, arranging flowers with gnarled but precise fingers. You told the American about the second vehicle, he said without preamble. Grandmother Kim didn't look up from her arrangement. I did. Why? Because you wouldn't. She placed a final stem, then turned to face him. For 3 years, you've been standing in place while the world moves around you. She's using Soo-Yun's death to investigate her sister's disappearance. Yes. Grandmother Kim gestured for him to sit. And you're finally asking the right questions because of it. Min Kong remained standing. What do you know that you haven't told me? The old woman's eyes were sharp with intelligence despite her age. I know that your wife is not who you think she is. I know that your trusted friend may not deserve that trust. And I know that the accident that took Soo-Yun was no accident at all. You suspected this for 3 years and said nothing? Anger edged into his voice. I said many things. You weren't ready to hear them. She sighed. Grief made you blind, Min Kong. Blind to the dangers in your own house. And now? Now you have someone who sees clearly. Someone with the skills to find what was hidden. Grandmother Kim's voice softened. Soo-Yun deserves justice. So does the American girl's sister. You hired Viridia deliberately. Knowing who she was. Of course. No apology in her tone. Sometimes to heal, we need someone to reopen the wound. Clean out the poison. Min Kong stared at his grandmother for a long moment. There will be consequences if Viridia is right about Vivian and Director Han. There are always consequences for the truth. Grandmother Kim turned back to her flowers. The question is whether you're finally ready to face them. As Min Kong turned to leave, she added, the East Wing. The answers begin there. Evening fell quickly. The house hummed with activity as staff prepared for a small dinner party Vivian was hosting, business associates and their wives. Min Kong had excused himself, claiming work commitments. Viridia moved through her duties automatically, her mind elsewhere. She needed to get into that locked room in the East Wing. The room that held Soo-Yun's things. The room that might hold answers. As she arranged wine glasses in the dining room, she felt eyes on her. Looking up, she saw Director Han watching from the doorway. Diligent as always, he said smoothly. How's the hand? Better, thank you. Her voice was neutral. Good, good. He stepped into the room, closing the distance between them. I've been meaning to ask you something, Miss Fides. Yes? Your sister. She worked here, I understand. Viridia's pulse quickened. Briefly, yes. Strange that she never mentioned having a sister. When I processed her paperwork. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Almost like she was hiding something. Or someone was hiding something about her. The smile slipped from his face. Careful, Miss Fides. Accusations without evidence can be dangerous. Especially in this house. Is that a threat, Director Han? A friendly warning. He adjusted his already perfect tie. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. After he left, Viridia's hand shook slightly as she placed the last wine glass. He was worried. Which meant she was on the right track. While the dinner party proceeded downstairs, Viridia slipped away to Min Kang's office as they'd arranged. He was waiting, his face grim. I spoke with the detective who investigated Soo-Yun's accident, he said without preamble. The official report was altered. Certain details removed before it was finalized. What details? Evidence of a second vehicle. Tire tracks beside the road. And a witness who reported seeing 2 cars that night. Viridia's heart raced. Who authorized the changes? That's the interesting part. The detective was pressured by his superior, who had received a call from Director Han. So Director Han helped cover up what really happened. Min Kang nodded. And there's more. My grandmother suggested we look in the East Wing. Soo-Yun's room. Viridia pulled out her phone, showing him the photo of the key. I've been trying to get in there. We don't need a key. Min Kang reached into his pocket. I have this. The key looked heavy in his palm. 3 years, and he'd kept it close all this time. You've never gone in? Viridia asked softly. Not since. He closed his fist around the key. I couldn't. And now? Now I need to know the truth. He stood. Let's go. They moved through the quiet house carefully, avoiding staff and security cameras. The East Wing was dark, undisturbed. The locked door at the end of the hallway loomed like a monument to the past. Min Kang hesitated before the door, key in hand. I don't know if I can. A crash from downstairs interrupted him. Then shouting. The security alarm blared to life. Min Kang's phone buzzed. He answered, listening intently, his face darkening. Lock down the house, he ordered. Full security protocol. Now. He hung up and turned to Viridia. Someone broke into my downtown office. They're here too. Security spotted them trying to access the West Wing. Where your grandmother is. Yes. His voice was tight with anger. The house is going into lockdown. All doors and windows sealed. Security will sweep room by room. As if on cue, metal shutters began descending over the windows. Electronic locks clicked throughout the house. We're trapped in this hallway, Viridia realized. Until security clears each section, yes. Min Kang looked at the locked door, then back at Viridia. Which gives us time. He inserted the key, turned it slowly. The lock clicked. The door swung open on silent hinges. The room beyond was frozen in time. Feminine, elegant, untouched. Soo-Yun's perfume still lingered faintly in the air. Min Kang stood in the doorway, unable to step forward, his face a mask of pain. I'll go first, Viridia said gently, moving past him. The room told the story of a life interrupted. Books on the nightstand. A sweater draped over a chair. Framed photographs of happier times, Soo-Yun and Min Kang laughing together. What are we looking for? Min Kang asked, his voice strained as he finally entered. Anything unusual. Anything that might explain why she was anxious that day. Why she needed to talk to you. They began searching carefully, respectfully. Viridia checked the desk while Min Kang stood by the window, still struggling with being in this space. Her laptop? Viridia asked. Police returned it. Nothing suspicious found. Min Kang's voice was distant. It should be in the desk. Viridia found it, opened it. Password protected. Do you know her password? Min Kang came closer. Try Moonlight 11. The laptop unlocked. Viridia navigated through files, finding nothing immediately suspicious. Emails, documents, photos. Wait. She noticed something. There's a hidden folder. Min Kong leaned over her shoulder as she opened it. Inside were surveillance photos. Dozens of them. Of Vivian. Vivian meeting with unknown men. Vivian entering hotels. Vivian arguing with Director Han. She was investigating your wife, Viridia said softly. Why would she? Look at the timestamps. Viridia pointed. These were taken the week before she died. Min Kang's face hardened as he scrolled through the images. She never said anything about this. She was going to. The day she died. They continued looking, finding a document with notes. Soo-yeon had been tracking Vivian's movements, her meetings, her phone calls. The last entry, dated June 16th, the day before the accident, V meeting with DH again. Confirmed suspicions. Taking evidence to MK tomorrow. Need to leave tonight. V is dangerous. She knew, Min Kong whispered. She knew something about Vivian and was going to tell me. But she never got the chance. Viridia looked up at him. Because someone made sure she didn't. Min Kang's phone rang, security updating him on the intruder situation. As he answered, Viridia continued searching. That's when she found it, a small USB drive taped under the desk drawer. Hidden. She slipped it into her pocket just as Min Kong finished his call. They caught someone on the grounds. Not in the house yet. His voice was tight. They're still sweeping each section. Viridia nodded toward the laptop. We need to check the security footage from that night. If Soo-yeon was being followed, it might show on the cameras. I told you, those files were deleted. Or moved. Viridia met his eyes. What if they weren't destroyed? Just hidden somewhere only certain people could access them? Min Kong stilled. Vivian has her own server. For her, social media and business contacts. Completely separate from the house system. Where? Her private office. The room adjacent to her bedroom. They looked at each other, the realization dawning. The security footage from the night of the accident, Viridia said slowly. It wasn't deleted. It was moved to Vivian's private server, Min Kong finished. Where no one would think to look. The lockdown alarm stopped abruptly. Security announcing the all clear. Min Kang's face transformed, cold determination replacing grief. Let's find out what my wife has been hiding for 3 years. If this story moved you like it moved me, I'd love to know your thoughts. Smash that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this remind us that no matter where we are in the world, we all understand love, loss, and the courage it takes to start again. I know you aren't ready for what awaits in part 2, put on your notifications on so as to not miss it. Thank you for watching.